And we begin this Friday evening with breaking news near the Tennessee-North Carolina state lines. TDOT says part of I-40 is closed due to a rock slide. Eastbound lanes are closed on the Tennessee side from exit 435 to the state line. Both lanes of I-40 are closed on the North Carolina side. WBIR 10 News reporter Daniel Sexton joins us now with what we know about that slide as well as the detours. Daniel?
Beth, right now traffic is already starting to get backed up, and it will only get worse. TDOT and NCDOT are diverting traffic to I-81 and I-26. Here's a picture that the North Carolina Department of Transportation tweeted out tonight. Crews say that they will have geotechnical experts assess the entire mountain in the morning. Until then, drivers will be taking detours. Here's what they are. People driving from Asheville to Tennessee will take I-26 to I-81 and down to I-40. People going to Asheville would take 40 to 81 and then down I-26. People coming from Asheville could also take I-26 to Highway 25 in North Carolina. That goes through Hot Springs and eventually goes through Newport, Tennessee. And by the way, this isn't the first time that this has happened. These problems go back decades. In 1997, a huge rock slide shut down the entire interstate for over 2 months. Then over 10 years ago, in 2009, a chunk of mountainside crashed into I-40 and caused even bigger problems. That took 6 months to reopen lanes and a year before all lanes were running smoothly. This is 2010 when crews put bolts in to stabilize the mountains. And then in the summer of 2015, TDOT crews started to crumble part of the cliff off that looked like it would become dangerous again, eventually shaving more than 110,000 tons of rock from the mountainside. That project went well into 2016. And those are just the major milestones for this stretch of road. Smaller slides happened in 2009, 2010, and 2012 before that big project started to take the road and make it a little bit safer. Beth?
All right, Daniel, good information there. Thank you for the update.